Twisty roads and views to make Grant Wood drop his pitchfork. Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is to make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. The bottom line, Todd, is the Grant Wood Byway is a really great day trip. So we went and traveled a day trip here in October and kind of hoping to find some leaves.
Yeah.
We did find them. They just weren't very pretty.
They were
very brown.
Yeah.
But if you're not from our area, Grant Wood is an artist that's from Iowa, best known for American Gothic.
Yeah, he grew up outside of Anamosa, moved to Cedar Rapids when he was like 10, went to college up in Minnesota and in Chicago, and taught junior high for about 6 years, but he's best known for all his rural paintings and artwork about the Midwest, and American Gothic is the iconic one. Yeah.
And in Iowa, he's well known here, but then they've dedicated some basically they built a road kind of traversing the places that he was part of his life.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll talk about, kind of the way we went. It was breezy as well that day. It wasn't cold, it was just windy.
It was very windy.
So we leave almost always from Solon, and we went up Highway 1 to Mount Vernon, and then we took Highway 30 over to Loudon. Just a lot of county roads that day. Y-24 took us up and then over to Goose Lake, Iowa, to where we stopped at our first stop, which was kind of a cool place, like almost a relic of time, Ollie's Garage, which happened to be also a convenience store. But I think it's kind of a couple things, I guess I would say about it, and is it was a cool old town, kind of sad because these older towns in these smaller areas are shrinking. So you could kind of tell it just kind of kept becoming more things. Like, I presume at one time it was simply a gas station and repair shop. Yeah. And now it turned into also a convenience store with food. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but it was like, oh, and you can get an ice cream, so, yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's just kind of one of those things.
They had great beef jerky there.
They did. They really did.
No, it was a cool place. I had a breakfast sandwich there that was great.
Like a homemade.
Yeah. It was totally homemade. Yeah.
I think it's just, and then one of the cool things we found was they'll pump your gas for you.
Yeah, full service fuel stop. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You don't see those ever.
And when we talked to the person that was kind of working there that day, they're just like, yeah, there's a lot of old people in town, and what a great thing, to do. Because, heck, some of these pumps, I have struggled to get my card and accessed, and I don't know, it's just a really cool thing.
Yeah, it was neat. And she said they only do it like certain days of the week, maybe on the weekends or something, but a lot of people do drive over there just for the full service, so they don't get out of their car. And
well, that's nice. And I guess, I don't know, I feel it's like a perfect place that we ended up, we just kind of found it.
Yeah.
But it goes along with Grant Wood, just an Iowa guy and doing Iowa things and painting Iowa sceneries, and Ollie's Garage is just a cool Iowa place.
Definitely.
Yeah, so if you find yourself accidentally in Preston, I would definitely stop.
Yeah.
So then from Preston, we continued on County Road Z34, which took us up to Bellevue. And so Bellevue would be kind of one of the bigger towns in that area. And that we've talked about, I think, that before. But there's the really cool lock and dam at Bellevue, which is, it's another really cool thing that's the Mississippi is kind of known for, is their locks and dams. And it's just a pretty cool place. What else is in that area?
The views from Bellevue are fantastic, too, of the river.
Well, and just the hills alone. Just in the town, there's elevation.
A lot of elevation changes. Bellevue State Park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a state park there, and it has a butterfly sanctuary there it's pretty cool, and an enclosed nature center, too.
And you can see those signs at the edge of town. I remember seeing those when we were there. But.
And is there a restaurant there that we've hit a few times?
I don't think we have. I've ate the restaurant before. I'm not so sure that the one that in the past maybe not there anymore.
Oh.
But there's a brewery in town. They're really trying hard to build up the Riverside part of it. Okay. And there's a nice place to walk there, too. I know that when I've stopped there before in the car, that it's just kind of you kind of sit up above the river, and it's a really cool place to watch the river.
Yeah. And a lot of small towns, lots of churches there.
Oh yeah.
Lots of old churches.
Yep. So if you leave Bellevue, then this kind of is where this whole thing starts. So that was getting ourselves there, but that's kind of, Bellevue is pretty much where the Grant Wood Scenic Byway starts. And you take 62 out of town, but right away we jumped on that Bellevue Cascade Road. And that's how you kind of get on that. And that's where we stopped to try. I brought the drone along to hopefully get some good pictures, but we didn't see much but a bunch of college students like doing some geo mining or something.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. Taking some rock samples.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But basically, once you get on that Bellevue Cascade Road, you head over to a place called Cottonwood, and then you go south. And that was kind of, when you look at this, there's actually a Travel Iowa page just on this road, so you can check it out. But it kind of winds around, I think, just to hit the places that he did some of his best, some of his work in. Yeah. And so that took us down to a town called Andrew, Iowa. And then Andrew kind of snakes us around on E17 and around to Maquoketa. And Maquoketa is a pretty established, bigger town over in that area. And it's kind of a neat town. It's got a river. There's a downtown that's kind of cool. And then there's some great things downtown as well and around Maquoketa, isn't there?
Yeah, I've stayed twice at the Decker Hotel, which is listed on, the registry, what do they call it? The National Registry of Historic Places.
And I think it's technically directly on the Grant Wood Byway, too. I think we saw that. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it was built in like 1875. And if you go into the lobby, I mean, there's antiques. It's the old, real rich, large wood, a great staircase.
Oh, wow.
The hotel is it's really unique. The owners are fantastic. I think they just purchased a little over a year ago. And so they're, doing some work on it. Also in Maquoketa, they have a state park. It's the Maquoketa Caves State Park. And I think it's the most caves
like
in Iowa.
Maybe?
Yeah.
That's quite a play. I mean, you can kind of go for miles and miles. And there's kind of two different phases. I mean, you can literally get inside the caves and go splunking, but there's also like kind of a trail that kind of skirts around the perimeters of the caves as well, which I've heard is a really cool walk.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but
I've not been in the caves, but I know that the trail I've seen is it's cool. Like you're kind of like going around, the perimeter of the caves and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more thing I'd like to mention, just because of that Decker Hotel, it's just like a little boutique hotel, but the reason we stayed there is there's a unique concert venue that you won't find anywhere else. It's called Codfish Hollow. It's like a Dutch style, a Gothic style barn, I guess. It's just an arch, and it's long and narrow, so it's kind of like being in the belly of a whale. And it opened in like 2009. I mean, the barn is much older than that, from the 40s or something. But they opened it as a concert venue, and they just have concerts there in the warm months. But they've had like Counting Crows, Nora Jones, John C. Reilly. I mean,
and you guys go see their...
I go see Here Come the Mummies.
Right.
There. Yeah. So I've been there a couple of different times, but it's out. I mean, it's a gravel road to get there, and then there's a cow pasture. There's cow pies in the cow pasture, but that's where you park. You can camp there, and then
it's like free camping.
Free camping. I mean, there's no water, no electricity hookups.
That's probably why it's free. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a couple of porta potties sitting out, but once you leave from the parking lot, you either walk to get back to the barn down a gravel road, or they've got a little shuttle bus. I think they even have a little hay ride or hay wagon.
Geez.
They'll run once in a while, but you go back to this barn, and there's like no Wi-Fi out there, so there's not Wi-Fi. There's no cell service out there, so you really kind of have to print your tickets out, or they just have your name on a list. I mean, it's really old school. It really is, and great place for concerts. They have a great sound system, lighting, and it's all in this really old, arch barn
place.
Yeah. It's just,
that's cool.
It's really neat.
Oh wow. So then from there, we went down a road, another county road, Y36, and then we took 136 to Oxford Junction, and that's kind of how you get from that Maquoketa to Anamosa. It's mostly on that 136. And Anamosa also is kind of a historic town, and it was part of Grant Wood's time.
Yeah, the Anamosa State Penitentiary.
I didn't realize he was in prison.
Oh, no, sorry.
I'm kidding.
I'm just talking about that. Yeah. That state penitentiary was like built in 1974. Prisoners.
1874.
Oh, sorry. 1874. Sorry. Prisoners built it using stone from Stone City.
Yeah, so Stone City's a big limestone quarry that, like all that area, when you see most stone, it's all limestone and from there, I think.
Yeah. And it just look at pictures online of the Anamosa State Penitentiary. It's really
I've actually been in it.
unique. Oh, you have?
Yeah, and it is wild. I mean, you can see how like over the years they've modernized it and continued. But yeah, when you go into basically a holding area. So you go in, they lock you in that, make sure everything's kosher, and then you get unlocked into the other side. It's amazing. Like it's an old, cool building.
Yeah, when I look at it, it reminds me of Shawshank Redemption. Just like that old style prison. It's something else.
Yeah. And then we didn't actually finish the full scenic tour, but that does end in Stone City, which is the place where I believe that Grant Wood had established an art colony, right?
You're right. Yeah. 1932. Actually,
Okay.
I looked that up.
And Stone City is just it's a cool little place. They used to have a really neat bar and grill, and I think it's now turning into an event center, which probably makes more sense. They can probably do better business there. But overall, I really liked this ride. I felt like if it would have been perfect colors, it would have been just amazing. And I can see why they called this the Grant Wood Scenic Byway, because if you're familiar with this pictures, it's always rolling hills, every time. And this is like the epitome of rolling hills. And I don't remember what part it was on, but I think it was on it was on the Bellevue Cascade Road. We went down and we're kind of in a valley, and man, it was just a really neat road. And and I think you had mentioned when we were kind of discussing things, the roads were in really good shape.
The roads were in great shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was super impressed. It's, 2-lane the whole way. The one thing I remember that luckily you saw a couple times is there's just signs, that say, Grant Wood Scenic Byway, and then you really have to kind of follow the signs because we couldn't go to Google Maps and say, take me on the Grant Wood Scenic Byway. You had to really just
kind of
follow the
navigate
signs.
it. Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. It was really cool to do it, but it was a little more difficult to kind of keep track of if we were on it or not. And then times we'd be like, I don't know if we're still on it. Yeah. And then pretty soon a sign would pop up.
Yeah.
It's not the shortest route. It's definitely kind of a more snake it around, and because you got to also cross the Maquoketa River, and so you got to get to a bridge a couple times. But yeah, it was well worth the ride.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable.
For sure.
This is a section we call the Toolkit. We share motorcycle gear review, and other riding tips. For the Toolkit today, we'll talk about the tool that we brought, but it didn't work. Well, it worked fine.
It worked fine.
It just didn't get anything worth a darn. It was a drone. I mean, we've taken the drone a few times now, and I think in your mind when you see these great drone videos of motorcycling, I think it's cool, but it's also like very rehearsed. Like anytime you see that, it's pretty darn rehearsed. Like you and I have talked about, man, it would be great to have a drone on all of our trips, and we could get these beautiful pictures of us riding motorcycles. And I think we've come to the conclusion that if you want that kind of shot, it's going to take an extra set of team maybe to be with you.
Yeah.
But that being said, man, is it cool to get the shots that the drones can get. And these drones are fairly reasonably priced. You see what they do. I mean, they go to like 170 meters in the air. They're just unbelievable shots.
4K cameras.
4K cameras, video. You can take pictures. Man, it's just been really interesting when we've done that. We've talked a lot about the cameras attached to the motorcycles. And, it becomes very difficult when you're kind of trying to build some videos for these things because you just create hours and hours of video to get little short clips. The kind of cool thing about the drone is everything you're kind of shooting is a really good clip. Yeah. In 4K. And I don't know. I mean, it will follow you, but like it only goes 30 miles an hour. So I just always know when we see those highly produced shots, it's a little bit of not quite what you think it is.
Yeah, I think we'll get better at it with practice.
True.
You know, we'll send the drone ahead, maybe half a mile or so, and
set it.
bring it down low, and then ride to it. You know, and ride past.
That's a
it.
great idea, and we could have done. A really good shot actually, where the kids were all digging for.
That's what I was
would have been a
thinking,
really
too.
cool
Right-
thing.
right in that
It was just
curve.
a really nice curve. It had a limestone wall against it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We'll have to work harder than that. I know we've got a suggestion to get more pictures of our bikes, and so maybe hitting one of our state parks. Well, we can't really do that. We'd have to.
That's true. You
can't fly drones in the state park.
park,
So.
yeah.
But no, I mean, do check your local regulations. They don't let you fly drones over everywhere. But I think now some of the DJI controversy has kind of squelched itself a little bit. For a while, they were talking about banning those drones. It is really, and then I think one thing I'm always amazed at every time I pack it up is how small they are.
Yeah.
The drone itself is not any bigger in your hand, and then the controller. And if you do get a drone, I would highly recommend getting the dedicated controller. DJI has that, and it.
Instead of your phone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's so much better. It's basically running Android on a phone in the controller, and it just makes life really, really much easier. You turn it on, it's good to go. And then the battery life on these things are getting pretty good too. I mean, you can fly for 20 minutes, which gives you enough time to set up a shot like you were talking about. Seasonality and times are good times. You know, dusk and dawn are the best times. They get better shots. That the light is just creating more shadows. So just be thinking about those things, I think, when you look to do like drone shots themselves.
I was super impressed with that drone because it was a windy day when we were there.
It was windy.
And the drone did well. I mean, it warned us a couple of times.
There was a couple times where we must have got into a jet stream that it was not liking, but we dropped it down 20, 30 feet, and it was...
But it was
held
still windy, and that
and
thing
stable.
held and stable. Yeah, I was super impressed with it.
And now they've, they know exactly where they took off, so you can just push a button and brrr, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
And the avoids objects now. They have I think it's cameras. It's not radar, but it's cameras that are on there. Just because the very first drone that I had, I ran it right into a tree the very first time I flew it. So, yeah. So, I mean, you do have to kind of practice and get good at it because, I mean, a lot of things, like when you're running remote control cars, when the drone's flipped around now, everything's backwards just getting a mindset on how to use it. But what beautiful pictures and at, gosh, it looks so cool.
Yeah.
300, 400 feet in the air, you're just like, this is cool.
It really
it
is.
just looks neat.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast today, please like and subscribe or sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop, and we promise no spam.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.